What's up, y'all? This is Coach Lorraine Lindsay, the Lorraine Lindsay Podcast Show, and we are watching another episode of The Mindsetters. And I am here in studio to continue our three-part series on insecurities with my beautiful lipstick ladies. But before we get started on our insecurities topic, please do not forget that if you are loving the show, to hit the subscribe button, give us the thumbs up. Let us know what you think. Give us your share with us your comments and any topics that you want us to talk about. So, all right, ladies, let's get right into it.
Let's do it.
So we are doing our second part of a three-part series on insecurity. And this is our first three-part series since we started the show. And we did a topics party at Carmen's house, which was amazing. A lot of amazing women came to the house. And then we had a few women that were on the show last week, Shannon and Nicole. And they shared a little bit about their journey and some of the insecurities that they went through. So today, I want us to kind of hit the bullet points of insecurities that popped up that were talked about and discussed at the topics party. And then next week, just so people know, we are going to be going live and there will be some fellas in the house. So we're going to hear from the men next week and let them talk about what they're insecure about, even when it pertains to women. Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions sometimes that we think that the men don't have insecurities when they're dealing with women. We think it's all us sometimes. So we're definitely going to hear from the fellas live. So make sure you're watching that next week. So, all right, let's start. First of all, how are my ladies doing?
Good.
Great.
Awesome.
Yeah. We've all been on some vacations, kind of, sort of. Well, you went away to Mexico on business. We missed you last week, by the way.
You guys too.
And then Carmen and I had a little weekend getaway in California, which was amazing. We went to go see her. So anyway, not
the
The
girl?
concert.
Oh,
yeah, it was really
I'm
good.
the girl.
The girl.
Your mic.
Her.
So anyhow, ladies, insecurities. Today I want to kind of focus, we're going to hit those topics, but focusing on how insecurities become stronger through comparison. I think that often when we are feeling insecure about things, it's because we're also, it's usually tied into how we're comparing ourselves to certain things. So, you're cracking me up making that face. So here's a couple bullet points. We're going to talk about beauty, the insecurities as it factors into beauty and how we feel about ourselves. Success, the insecurities with the perception or what we need to be successful. Loneliness, that's a big one. That came up last week. And then our weight and aging. So let's start with beauty. Who wants to start on the insecurities of beauty?
You want to start?
Sure. Well, I mean, social media, hello. I mean, that's kind of number one, especially being a mother to a daughter. That's kind of a big deal. And as a woman, a middle-aged woman, a young middle-aged woman, I like to call myself.
Are we
You know,
middle-aged?
I don't know. What are we?
We're
I
not
don't-
there yet, I
I
don't
just still think I don't even have a
We'll
number.
talk about that
Yeah.
on the aging part.
Totally. But I mean, as far as beauty goes, I mean, I'm cultured. I'm Latina. I have a lot of different looks that I can hold on to. So for me, beauty looks so many different ways, but depends on what stage of life, I guess, someone's in, what they define as beauty. For me, beauty is internal first, of course, but then we have this external thing, and we compare what's out there in media and our friends, and who do I want to look like? What do I want to look like? And, for me personally, I think it gets better as we get older if we're in alignment with that. Otherwise, it can become the detriment to our life, right? We're always trying to figure out what that beauty is. But for me, beauty's just whatever we want it to be, but it's a challenge for many that compare to.
You were going to, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I've been in the beauty industry for 20 plus years, so dealing with women a lot and hearing a lot of stories. Beauty's probably not one of my biggest insecurities. I don't, not like I think I'm all that, but that's just not something that I'm not one to compare my beauty to somebody else's beauty. But I wish women can embrace the beauty they bring to the world and just be comfortable in your skin. I mean, I know it's harder to be comfortable in your skin sometimes, but as far as beauty goes, I wish women would just embrace who they are. It's like genetics, you know what I mean? You could get all the facelifts or whatever, but you're still who you are on the inside, and the beauty comes from inside out.
Okay, so that's all wishful thinking from both of you, but let's keep it real. I'm going to keep it real.
Keep it real.
Every one of us have, I feel like, and I don't want to speak for you all, issues with beauty and insecurities. I 100% have always had issues with feeling beautiful. And the thing about it is, and we can even go as far as like, you could feel like a beautiful woman. I know there's been times in relationships that I've been in where it didn't matter if the outside world told me I was beautiful, and they could feed that and pour that into me. If the person that I loved didn't make me feel beautiful, I didn't feel beautiful. And also too, as you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I remember like,
I have a story too. I always have
do you?
a story.
You
It's
always have a
ding,
good story.
ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, I know.
No, but I mean, I feel like if we're going to talk about insecurity, we
Yeah.
have to talk about it for real. I mean, it's in a perfect world. Yeah, we're going to be,
Yeah.
we're beautiful on the inside. But the realities in the society that we're in, there is a lot of pressure for women to be beautiful, or for people, not just women.
I think for me, that like when you say beauty, it's like, do I think I'm pretty? Okay, I think I'm pretty. So sometimes I think I have a lot of insecurities that I wouldn't associate with being pretty. You know what I mean?
Right. Gotcha.
But saying what you said, yeah, like if I was in a relationship and, you know, when you get dressed up and you look all pretty, you want your man to be like, baby, you look good, right? Or
Right.
like,
Yeah.
you know, I want that later or something. So I was dating this guy and I was cute. I was real cute. Like
I
I
love
walked
it.
in the club and it was like
Bam.
all eyes on me,
Yeah.
right? Or at least that's how I felt.
Heck yeah.
But it was true too.
It's an attitude. I love it.
No. But no, I felt really cute. And when he came, he didn't say anything. And so I said, you know, it doesn't matter if the entire room tells me I look good. If you don't tell me I look good, I'm feeling I feel like I don't look good.
Mm-hmm.
And why would you want me to walk in the room and have every other man tell me I look good and you not tell me I look good?
Right.
Like I'd never give
What was his reason?
Really?
Yeah.
His reasons were, I don't tell chicks that they look good. I'm like, you're so stupid.
He's insecure.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. So it was
Exactly.
his
Yeah.
insecurities playing
Totally.
out on me. And I was like, first of all, I'm not some chick. I'm your woman. Like
Right.
you should never let that opportunity happen again.
Yeah.
And of course he was younger than me.
You just
so
schooled him. That's right, girl.
You know, I had me growing up. I'm biracial, right? For people who don't know that, most people think I'm a Hispanic. They think I'm a Latina. But my mother is a black woman. My father is a white man. Okay, so I was raised by my mother in a predominantly black neighborhood, and I remember growing up. Women didn't. The women that you saw on television didn't look like me. They were at the time 80s, 90s. They were blonde. You know, Bo Derek, Farrah Fawcett. You know, Michelle Pfeiffer. These were the images of beauty on television. And so for me, I am a light-skinned girl growing up in a black neighborhood with a black mother. And I had a lot of struggle with my identity and identifying with what beauty was because I didn't look like my mom. And my mother, you know, she was like Diana Ross to me. She had these cheekbones and these beautiful lips, and she was just really, and still is, just a beautiful woman. And I never felt pretty. I never felt beautiful. And so now as an adult, when I started getting a little bit older and people would say to me, oh my God, you're so beautiful. I went from being teased for being biracial mixed to all of a sudden the look of a woman that was curvy and dark features was now exotic.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I have a hard time connecting to people telling me that I'm attractive, they don't get that. So some people look at it like, oh, she's fishing, or come on, you know you're attractive. But when you're brought up a certain way and you're not, and you don't feel beautiful in your environment and your neighborhood doesn't make you, I mean, I was picked on, I was teased, you know. And then the thing was when I would try to like go with like the Hispanic kids and hang out with them, because there were Hispanics in my neighbor as well, I didn't fit in there because I didn't speak the language. I didn't understand. And then I would go and like maybe try to hang out with the white kids, and they were like, you're not white. So it was like I didn't know how to fit in. And so it took me a long time to get comfortable being the woman that I am. But I still struggle even to this day with not feeling that beauty, even though I'll take my selfies, I'll do this and that. But it's also like my way of telling myself, just, you know, just force yourself to be comfortable, Lorraine. You're going to be an old lady, God willing, one day. Try to embrace who you are, what you look like, what, you know, and despite the fact that people will tell me I'm attractive, I'm like, let me do it so I feel beautiful. Because I do struggle with it. Even her and I went to a comedy club. I hope I'm not rambling, but we went to a comedy club, okay? And it was mostly black people in there. And we're sitting in the back of the room. And people don't look at me and say, she's black. in my mind, I think everybody knows, right? But especially when I was younger, but I have a complex about it. I have an insecurity about it. I want people to see me and know that that's a part of who I am. Because it's how I grew up. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in the comedy club and the comedian is on the stage. We're in the back, kind of towards the back. And at some point, he makes a comment, he's on the crowd, and he says, look at that white girl back there. And he says something about the white girl. I turn around to look to see who's sitting behind me. And he's like, look at her looking back like she ain't the white girl in the room.
That's funny.
And I was so
She
mad.
was so mad for
I was like,
the rest of
I
the
was
show.
pissed. I'm in my feelings. She's kind of giggling. And I'm like,
like-
they should know that I'm black.
Yeah.
She
But anyway.
even like told the guy at the end,
End.
you said I was white. I am not white.
And then he
says,
like
"No,
kind of
I'm
like
not
looks
white."
me up and down, and he's like, oh, no, you're definitely not white. But it was just like that. But still inside of me, it took me back to that, me being that little girl and having those insecurities and feeling like I don't fit in and I'm not beautiful. And how can I be beautiful when I don't look like the people that I think are beautiful? And really struggling. And to this day, sometimes I struggle with that and being fully transparent.
I get the not fitting in part totally. Do I associate that with beauty? I don't know if I associate it so much with beauty. When I hear the word beauty, it's like
External.
it's also internal too, though, because I think beauty goes both ways. You can be
Mhm.
really beautiful on the outside, and
Mhm.
just when you
Vain.
open your mouth,
Mhm.
you turn ugly. But yeah, I think we should probably move on to the next one, because I think a lot of them tie into beauty.
Right. Okay, so we'll go on to the next one. And this one, I think a lot of people have insecurities with this. And again, this is kind of tied to what you said, Charlene, as it pertains to social media. And that's success.
Mhm.
The perception of what success is supposed to be like and what it's supposed to look like and how much money you're supposed to have for it to be, for you to be a success. Even people look at success from just having followers. I know individuals who have a ton of followers and they're broke as hell.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And so what do you all want to say about the insecurities that tie into being successful?
I think I'm working on that fear of success. Like, I know I have a huge purpose in my life, and I have to be something great that God is putting in me, and I know I have work to do, and I'm really working on it. But that fear of having to follow up and be that I know what I'm supposed to be in life. Like, I don't know what it's not like a fear like I can't do it. It's just like I have to do it. I have to show up to do it.
So what's the fear?
I don't know. I don't know if I've not knowing, maybe not knowing what it's going to be like on the other side of that. I'm definitely working towards my goals right now of what I want to do. But for a long time, like comparing, if we talk about comparison, you have somebody who's more successful than you, and you're like, how do I get to be that? Or, or how do I achieve that? Because I don't know what the steps are to do that. So a lot of the fear in me with success has been just limiting myself, not putting myself out there, not taking the chances that I know I needed to take. That's been my journey.
What about you?
I can be competitive. I have the spirit that I can. So for me, I've worked for myself for a really long time, but there's also a lot of peers in my field, right? So numbers matter in finance and real estate and in many things. So, at some point in time, I would question where I was at. And it is an insecurity because how did they get there? Why are they there? How come I'm not there yet? What am I not doing? How do I get to that? And that did take some of my energy, consuming myself with what everybody else is doing instead of finding my own path to get there. And once I started to do that, it not only did my success change, but my mindset changed to realize that just because they got that much closing, that much money, that don't mean nothing. You know what I mean? That's a whole nother thing for me
Right.
with success. Success to me means where's my morals? Where's my integrity? Where's my character? Where's my dignity? But that takes growth and maturity to get there. Being in this type of industry for so long in my 20s, I started in 20, my whole 20s, I'm looking around me like, what am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to be? And, while living everything else. But for that success in marriage, success in parenting, success in how I'm showing up in my family. To our point earlier, my parents were divorced. I'm not sure whatever, but I remember moving out here and as a young girl feeling insecure because I didn't have two parents at home at one time. And I remember going to school and just wanting that so badly that it made me kind of sit back a little bit. And I think I rebelled at a young age, but then you grow out of that, and you figure out what that is. But I couldn't identify that
How?
then.
Because if people are out there watching, right, we can talk about those things, but then how? So when you said we grow out of it, how do you grow out of an insecurity? Can you truly, truly overcome something that you are insecure about, or is it just through time? Like really, I mean, because I think that some people who listen, we're at in some things we're at a place where we've overcome, and so we can talk about that story. But it's like how did you do it?
Sometimes we have earth angels, is what I call them, people that come in our path to teach us differently or show us something else. That's one thing. Secondly, when you want to do good, good will find you, and that good healing comes in that good, or wisdom to see differently comes with that too. And I'm like you, a knowledge seeker. I want to learn everything I do. So for me, I had to really see who I was or what I was thinking and who I wanted to be and figure that out. And faith plays a big role in my part. That's what I held on to when I didn't know what that was, and that gave me that path. But also being a young mom, being a young married woman, and focused on being better always to my demise.
Is that how you feel you overcame? Because I'm trying to think right now, even for myself, things that I've been insecure about. I feel like for me, the only and you're never going to get rid of insecurity, right? They're just kind of part of being human, I think. But there are some that were worse than others at different times in my life, and I think for me, you have to face it boldly. Almost, you just have to first accept that it's something you're afraid of, right? Your insecurity is tied into what you're afraid of, and just like looking at it and say, okay, like when we were talking about beauty, I there are times for me, believe it or not, when I remember someone telling me, you have to, when I was starting to build my business and trying to do coaching, you got to do more pictures of yourself, no more memes and the pictures of yourself. And no one wants to see me and then have a quote behind it. But yeah, but it's good for content and stuff. And I really had to force myself to say, Lorraine, people may not understand my why behind my selfie or my this or my that, but some of those days that I'm posting something like that are not for likes and things like that. It's because that is the day that I'm feeling the worst sometimes. And I have to face the insecurity with this boldly. And even when you're in relationships, right? If you're getting into it, like for me, being single, the next time I meet somebody, the insecurities start all over again. And it's hard because now you're like, for me, I'm like, well, are they looking at me? Are they picking me apart? I literally do that to myself, and I'll put a brave front up, but it's like my own way of overcoming some of my insecurities. I have to face it like boldly. You were going to say something, Carmen?
No, I was going to say something like similarly, like just we always talk about accountability and acknowledging, and you have to like dig into yourself and say, why am I insecure about this, or why is it holding me back? And just, I mean, the only way I can say is just face it, like you said, and just change your mindset about it. And just for me with success, not that I haven't been successful in things, I always wanted to be home with my kids when they got to a certain age. So I just literally stopped working late, because that to me was success. I want to be able to pick my kids up, drop them off in the morning, make their dinner, make sure I can make all of their games. I never wanted my job to come in between that. So I gave up probably a lot of time where I could have been more successful, but that was my success at the time.
Successful to monetary.
Right, because to me, I never get that time back. So that was the most important thing. Now they're older.
But was that also your insecurity of saying, if I cut back my hours, will it be enough? I mean, what were your insecurities in that?
Well, no, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that was my insecurities. I'm just saying those were the things I did to fulfill that success in my life. But it took away from the business side. You know what I mean? So now I'm at a point where I'm trying to build a business, and I feel sometimes insecure about it because maybe I don't know as much as I think I should at this stage of life.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So it's like that's my insecurities. Not that I can't do it.
Kind of like, but I think we all kind of feel that, like imposter syndrome, sort of, kind of like, am I that, or who am I, and build on that there for
And
sure.
it's like, then when I talk, I'm like, I know what the heck I'm talking about. Why do I, why am I afraid? And I catch myself saying that, like, I'll be like getting that little insecurity, and then I'm like, why am I feeling insecure about it? I notice why am I not wanting to face it, or why am I not doing it? What's holding me back? So questioning yourself.
Right.
What I hear insecurity is a fear. Like at the stem of an insecurity is some
Mhm.
type of fear that we need to address or conquer or meet. Because what else would that come from?
Well, yeah, and I feel like, and again, this is me being very transparent because I know before the show we were talking about words, and one of the words that was mentioned was the word misunderstanding.
Mhm.
And we were like, well, I don't know if that's an insecurity, but I know for me, the feeling of being misunderstood stems from something that happened to me in my childhood that made me feel very insecure. And again, this is going back to my beauty or my image.
Mhm.
So I was in third grade. Okay. My mom used to walk me to school every day. Again, my mother is a black woman and I'm light skinned. When we get to the school and my mom kissed me goodbye, the kids started teasing me. And it was happening often. And the kids were saying, that is not your mommy. You're white and she's explicit and she's black. And now I'm from England. Okay. And so coming to this country, I wasn't, and I was still, young enough that I remember more of England than America at the time. And I didn't understand what that meant because I had never paid attention to the fact that my mother was darker skinned than I was. She was just my mom. I didn't notice. So I felt uncomfortable and I felt embarrassed. I didn't know why they were saying that. And so here I am, third grade. I go home to my mom and I say to her, Mom, I don't want you to take me to school anymore. And she says to me, well, why? And I said, well, because I'm embarrassed because you're black and I'm white. And my mother wept and she cried and she told me I was ashamed of her. And how could you say something like that? And my mom was in so much pain. And I remember the feeling, third grade, of feeling misunderstood and feeling insecure about expressing myself. And I didn't know what to say because my intention wasn't to hurt my mom's feelings. I just didn't know why they were teasing. I didn't understand. And that was the only way I could comprehend it.
Mhm.
So growing up, even though that was buried deep in my mind, it always made me feel insecure. So if I were around people who didn't understand me or misunderstood what I was saying or what have you, and I felt like I was going to hurt their feelings or whatever when I was trying to articulate myself, it literally made me really emotional inside. And I didn't even know that it stemmed from that story until I started doing some work and trying to understand, why do I get so angry when people misunderstand me? And it was my coach. I had to do my own coaching and so on and so forth. And I know it's a long-winded story, but it's to the point of what I guess I'm trying to make here is that sometimes the insecurities that we have are so deep rooted. They stem from one simple story that just continued to grow because you didn't get your healing or your clarity in that. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
that's why I say we can talk about insecurities, but how do people overcome them? How do they face them if they don't really know where it comes from sometimes? Sometimes you don't even know why you feel it. Some things are obvious. And then other things, whether it's like a jealousy or an envy for other people or when we're comparing, and we don't, there's the obvious thing, but that's just surface. And then there's the root.
Those who want to get to the root will find it. Not everybody wants to go there, and that's deep, right? So a lot of people are surface and they stay in that state of insecurity and they fix the outer world to avoid the inner world, and that doesn't help.
Do you
But
think it's that they don't want to or they just don't know how
they
to?
might be afraid to. Even if you gave them a how to, sometimes it hurts. People are afraid
Yeah.
of staying stuck in a place of that. And I'm one, I didn't, why am I going to go there? I feel good now. Why am I going to go? But in order for me to feel joy and really, progress in my life in every aspect of my being, I had to go visit that place
Yeah.
before, and figure that out.
So what about the insecurities when it comes to loneliness? Now, this one came up in our last show. A few people actually mentioned being the insecurities of being alone. Have either of you ever experienced that? And what are your thoughts on? Because I think loneliness is a big fear for a lot of people.
Loneliness, like in relationships or just self being, because you could be in a room full of people, right, and have that loneliness feeling. Right?
Well, however it comes to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely can relate to loneliness. Being married for so long and then just always having somebody, but even feeling alone in a marriage, like you're going through things by yourself.
Mhm.
I didn't want to feel that anymore again and so I think I would cling to relationship. Like it's like I could find a relationship quick, at one after the other because I was so afraid of that time alone. but yet still feeling lonely because it was just filling voids,
Distraction. Yeah.
you know? So, I still like, I'm a kind of relationship type person. I like to have a partner, but I'm clear, like I want a specific kind of partner, and I'm really embracing more of my alone time, and I'm not as fearful of it anymore. But I think that was digging deep too and understanding why.
Okay, so yeah,
Why?
how did you get to that point?
Oh, okay.
Because a lot of people need to hear that.
Yeah. So I don't know if I've talked about in detail, but I had a relationship where a person was murdered, and I was in that relationship. And he was murdered, and I was on my way to his house. So there was a lot of trauma in that. And I found myself really quickly in another relationship, like maybe 6 weeks. And you know, that whole he saved me thing, he saved me from this pain that I was in at the time. And when him and I broke up, I was right back to that grief. And it's like I never dealt with that grief. Not only the grief of him being murdered, but the grief of my grandmother dying, the things my son had went through, things in my life
that were happening in the same
it
time
almost just brought everything up. And being still in COVID, couldn't go to work. So I would literally be in the bed dealing with all of this grief, all of this pain. And it was like God showing me, like, you have to deal with your shit. Like, you have to face these things. You have to feel these things. You have to know why did you keep making the same mistakes over and over, like dating the same type of man, you know, like what were you looking for in that? So I had to dig in myself to find out what it was.
So in other words, it's like your insecurity was your loneliness, because the loneliness meant I'm going to have to face these things. And then finding out that no matter what you were doing to fight the loneliness, it was still in you to, or excuse me, whatever you were dealing with, the loneliness was going to unearth it.
Right.
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 And so then there was a moment where you realize it's in me no matter what.
Yeah. You keep pacifying it and trying to push it down. Like, I got this. I'm okay. I'm good. I'm okay. And then realizing you're not good.
Right.
Like, you are not good. How could you be good? When you say the stories out loud, it's like, how could I be good? You know what I mean? Like,
do you think there's a defense mechanism that we got go into? Yeah.
So
for that reason,
defense.
people may not realize that there's an insecurity because they go into that, and that's the state they know how to be in. Right?
I got this.
Yeah.
You'll hear me say it 100 times. I got this. If I notice even now, like if I'm challenged in a way, or something doesn't go the way I want it to go, or somebody doesn't come through the way I want them, it's cool. I got it. No matter how it feels on the inside, I got it. I'll take care of it. I'll do it. But that's my armor I'm putting on, you know.
You're
like,
a boss.
I'm tough.
Yeah.
I'm built.
Yeah,
but I'm built.
you know what? But listen.
But
we could boss our way. We could say we're tough and we're a boss and we got this thick skin, and we're only lying to ourselves. You know, because on the contrary to fear of being alone, I will embrace loneliness. Or I'm not a person who struggles with feeling lonely, because I know that loneliness is a state of mind. I know that to be alone and to be lonely are two different things. However, I have insecurities with being hurt, right? The pain of an individual coming into my life and hurting me sometimes are so great that I'd rather be alone. So the insecurity of pain hardens me and blocks me from saying, no, I'm going to be open to open my heart and love somebody. No, I just rather be alone. So it's interesting how even similar insecurities can create different, can show up different in our life. And I think sometimes, circling back, when we tell ourselves, and I am a liar to myself quite often, to be frank, I like to pretend that I'm okay when I'm not. And I've developed this thick skin because I was in survival mode growing up. You know, I had a hard childhood, and I'm not trying to make it like a big deal. I'm not trying to like be a victim to it. It just is what it is. It's a fact that there's shit happened in my childhood. But I was kind of the rock growing up. I was the one that was the oldest and had to take care of things. And if I fell apart, no one knew what to do with that. So as an adult, I've never been able to, the insecurity of being vulnerable, of letting loose, of saying, I can let someone feel my pain and I could talk about my pain and they're not going to abandon me. And those are insecurities.
I've had that pressure too of being the
Right?
oldest and having to. I mean,
But when we say we're okay,
Yeah.
we're good.
Yeah.
Listen, when I say I'm a strong woman, I'm independent, I can do this. It's all a lie. The truth is that's my suit of armor because I'm afraid.
I was craving. Like I would say to myself, God, I just want to feel weak. Just
Right.
for a moment. Like, could I just have a moment
And feel safe being weak.
And feel safe.
Just a minute. Like, look, I'm getting emotional. Just, I just want to, not that I'm
Surrender.
weak.
But that
Yeah.
right,
I just
that's
wanna
it,
feel
Carmen, right there.
weak.
That's it. Insecurities, you have to face them
Yeah.
boldly. And we have to stop lying to ourselves sometimes and saying we're okay when we're not. You have to be able to tell somebody we were going to talk about weight or aging or like these are facts of life, and these are the reasons why we feel insecure about them. And sometimes I don't feel beautiful, and sometimes I don't feel successful. And quite often people who think I'm successful, I'm like, it's a lie. I'm busy doing a whole lot of things. I have been really successful at being mediocre.
Yeah.
Because I've never been 100% in any one thing that I really want to do. Even though I've made the money, I know it's not doing what I want. And it's all because of insecurities, of feeling like I'm not enough. And I think the moment you say it out loud, even right now as I'm talking, it's liberating.
Shackles
Just say,
come off,
damn,
yeah.
man, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not where I want to be. And I'm afraid. And I'm getting older. And is it too late? And did I wait too long?
That's a thought too now.
Right.
Like, I'm 43 years old. Like, I got to get my stuff, my life together. Like, what? I don't have that much. I have less time ahead of me than I do behind me. You know, like, I have to, like, today make decisions to set myself up for when I get old. And I don't want to work. I'm already tired. Sometimes I'm like, damn, I don't want to hustle no more. I'm tired of hustling. Every day I got to hustle. Every day. Like, if I don't go to work, if I don't get up, if I don't hustle, I don't make no money.
But you know what? I'm at a reset in my life where I'm getting to a point where I'm being more honest with myself and allowing myself to feel, because I've been so hard for so long, and I'm tired of that. I'm tired of me. So I'm just like, let myself feel, be alone and not lonely, really embrace myself, and then really be truthful. Lorraine, tell yourself you're beautiful, because you are. People see you and they see you're beautiful. Everyone doesn't need to think I'm beautiful. I need to think that. And so I'm embracing that just a little bit more. You know, the same thing, like, I'm successful if I'm fulfilled. I've bought the cars, I have the shoes, the purses, I've had the big, beautiful houses. Once you know you can get it, you realize it's really not that important. You know, me being really able to say, what was I trying to prove with all that? Be honest. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I want money. I want to make money. I want to do the thing, but I'm more clear as to why. If I know it can help me to contribute to more people, it's more important for me now. Before, it was just for exploitation. That's the truth, right? Because if I have this, if I'm in my Jag or my Porsche or all these freaking cars that I've driven, who cares about my car but someone who can't afford it? That's the only person who's impressed. The person that's looking at you. That's exploitation, right? Anybody who has more than me, they don't give two shits about the car I'm driving if they got a better car than me. We're doing all these things, and
Sometimes it's a uniform.
It is a uniform.
Yeah.
But okay, what do you? And
I mean,
don't get me wrong, I love my cars.
I mean, we work a certain. Yeah.
I'm just saying I got to be more realistic.
Right.
And saying if I didn't have this car, like I had a flat tire. Sorry to cut you off, John, real quick.
No, you're good.
I had a flat tire the other day. It's on back order. So I'm driving around in my son's Honda Civic. I have a fancy Porsche. So now I'm driving around in my son's Honda Civic, and I'm thinking to myself, man, the gas mileage on this bad boy is great. And nobody gives a shit that I'm driving this car right now. When I pull in and park somewhere and I walk up wherever I go, nobody knows what I pulled in, and I'm like, do I really care about the car that I'm driving? I don't anymore, and I'm like, what's happening to me?
And it's
But you were gonna say
it's the intention behind
Yeah.
it too. If it's practicality, if it's a uniform, if it's I mean, I think that there are certain industries that you have to
Yeah,
dress
I
a
get
certain,
that.
be a certain
100%,
part,
yeah.
and it does matter. That's just society.
Right.
But if the intention is just to say I haven't, let the world see, look at me, that's something else versus this is a status standard. Like I'm walking into these whatever homes or this business and it. I mean, we live in a world that judges. I mean, society is part of
It matters though until it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And
What you do
when
with it matters.
And let me tell you, I know some people I've met, I've been blessed enough to be around very wealthy, and I say wealthy people, okay? And let me tell you, when it doesn't matter, that status, that image, that look, we're only doing that to portray something, right? And I get that it's a uniform, and I get that, I worked in the casino industry forever, so I had to show up with my fancy shoes and everything to impress my clients. But guess what? At some point, you realize as long as you're neat and clean and put together, and you show up as you, and they can depend on you to add value to whatever they need, they don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
If selling a house, I pour up on my Porsche, or I could pull up in a as long as my car is clean and they're like, I trust this person that they're going to make sure this transaction goes through.
Mm-hmm.
Some people like the status. I get it. I'm not saying everybody, but at the end, when it don't matter, it don't matter.
It doesn't matter, but there is perception.
Yeah,
There
You're
is a perception.
It matters to your. It doesn't matter
But
to
when
the
you
soul.
make it,
Right,
though, what I'm
right.
saying is when you make it to a certain
Yeah.
level
Mm-hmm.
where you don't need to impress anybody, when you have arrived,
That's
I'm telling you,
that's a self surrender
Yeah.
at that point. And even people with a lot of money sometimes never get there.
that's true.
You know,
that's
that's
true.
just, it's a matter of what work are we doing in ourselves to realize that that's not going to go with us when we pass away. They're not going to write a book about what kind of car she
Yeah, but
drove.
if someone if you looked at let's say Bill Gates, for example, if you see him on an interview, he's got a flannel shirt on and khaki pants, like he's not blinged out, and you know what I mean. He doesn't have to be.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that part there, the blinging out, something else.
I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
saying that when people know who they are, when they know,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have to show up for
Confidence,
other
yeah.
people. They just show up,
Mm-hmm.
and that's sufficient. And that's where I quite frankly would like to get to.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to be a monetary status for me, but it's just I've accepted myself, and you either accept me or you don't, and it's okay. It's okay. Because I know when I show up, I'm showing up 100%. And we all try to show up to impress people because we're insecure. That's
But
what
that's
it boils
the life,
down
that's
to,
the
right?
journey of life.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I think. That's why every day we're getting closer to what that is, and how fortunate are we that we get to talk about it amongst each other and share
Right.
with other people, because that's
In this country.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things happening in the world today.
Mhm.
Let's be frank.
Yeah.
And it's people who have real world problems,
Yeah.
and so I think that I've become more aware of that too. And to say,
Do you think that has to do with aging?
yes.
Oh.
And being aware, being awoke, being able.
Was
Just
being
put it
funny.
out
Yeah. Oh.
No,
Oh,
because that
'cause-
we should talk.
Yeah, I'm
on
sorry.
aging
Wisdom.
a
We're
little bit.
definitely rambling, or I am. I will
It's
own
good
that today.
stuff,
I'm
though.
rambling. But
It is
it's
very
something
good.
I'm very passionate about
Yeah.
because I feel like a lot of people struggle in their insecurities. And I think that a lot of people who struggle in their insecurities don't realize that everybody they're around is struggling with theirs too.
Yeah, we tend to think everybody has it together.
Right.
Like if I see you ladies walking down the street and I didn't know you, I'd be like, they look so put together. But I look put together too, and I subconsciously it would be a comparison.
So you're
I wouldn't
drawn
say,
to you. You're drawn to what you're drawn to because
Yeah.
of who you are too.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say like I'm comparing in my head, but I am comparing. You know what I mean? But it's like a subconscious thing because I'll be like, God, she's so pretty. She's so pretty. She's so fit. Like
Mhm.
maybe I want to look like that. And then somebody will say the same thing to me. And it's like, why don't we see ourselves as other people see us sometimes?
Yeah, totally.
No, I get that. There's always that next level. That's
yeah,
why,
yeah. I guess that's healthy though.
Yeah, because there's a measure, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk about these two little points.
Mhm.
We'll make it real brief. And then I would like to have us do our little round robin and really speak to people out there who are really, really invested in trying to overcome it. I mean, there's people, like you said, that they don't tap into what we're talking about. And that's not who I'm speaking to. I don't care who listens. I care about the people who listen and it matters to them. So I want to be able to give some contribution to that. And so if we can speak on maybe what we think are ways to overcome insecurities or how to make them more of a balance in our lives, how we can manage them. But before we get to that, I want to say real quick, because let's see, we got like, I don't know, about 5-10 minutes. Let's go 10. And weight and aging. You guys kind of want to talk about the insecurities with that?
Mm-hmm.
Weight is a huge one for me. And I would even put my weight I was heavy as a child, like really heavy. And then I already didn't feel like I fit in. And so I always have this self-image that I'm a big girl. And I'm between a size 8 and a size 10. I'm an average size woman. I'm not overweight, you know. But then I have a lot of body issues with skin and stuff that I don't like. But in my head, I just see myself as a big woman, like overweight all the time. And I'll look in the mirror sometimes. I'm like, I'm not that. You know, when I see
Does
myself.
it make you feel insecure?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a lot of the time. You always, whenever we take pictures, I'm like, I look ginormous.
She's fine as wine.
That's
You know,
that's some
I
line
look so
work,
big
yeah.
compared, you know, because
Yeah.
you're shorty, you're tall. And I'm like, I'm the big one in the group. Like, I think like that. That's how my head goes.
So
And
how do you, because you are so graceful in that you never portray that you're feeling insecure, you know? So how do you feel like you've overcome that? Because you're not the heavy teenager that you used to be. And I know you're obviously saying you still struggle with it, but how are you overcoming those things?
I think just with time, like, I love that I am feeling more secure in my body. Like I never wore a bathing suit without shorts till like we went to Costa Rica in May or something like that. Maybe a few months prior. Like never. I would never go to the beach in a bathing suit and not wear shorts. Ever.
So what made you change your mind?
Just me telling myself that it's okay. I look okay. Started just changing the way I spoke to myself.
I love that.
And just embracing my body. You know, it's like, yeah, I got cellulite. Yeah, I got loose skin. But I like myself. I'm starting to really love myself.
I love that.
So
That's where the change has to happen
and it's
first.
like,
yeah.
And when you talk about like, I forget how you put it, but when you want to do better, like the angels will come. If we're not open to receive those angels or those gifts, you're not going to hear them. They're going to keep flying by. But I think God continues to keep putting people in your life and
Because
things
your
to change
desires of
it.
your heart, you
Yeah.
want it. It's true, and to
That's
that point,
key.
it is.
Yeah.
Healthy,
Your desire of your
beauty,
heart.
weight, all of that. I mean, obviously, you know, we hold on to weight for other reasons. I really believe our emotions keep us. Our bodies are created to be a certain way, and yes, some people suppress feelings with eating, and some people don't. But their body's just stuck with all this crud in it. But the way I believe it to weight loss or success is love yourself as you are exactly right now. And that will just, and it's easier said than done.
Yeah,
I'm
for
sure.
sure.
I mean, you know, whatever cliche, but it's the truth. If you can really just, even if you're lying to yourself, just love yourself through that. That's so important. That's one of the first things I sit down and discuss with, you know, with clients at the time.
Food. You know, I'm a foodie. I love good food. I don't overeat, but I love good food. And just recently, like my mindset on food, even like I'm so much more aware of what I put in my body. I still indulge a lot, but not as much. And I'm seeing subtle changes just because of the way I'm thinking is changing. So I think
Starts with the mind, girl.
Yeah, the
That's
mindsetters.
awesome. Yeah,
No,
that's right.
but
Yeah.
like just changing how you see yourself, how you believe about yourself, what you believe about yourself. So
And then I'm just going to tap into the whole aging thing because I think I struggle with that.
me too.
You know, when I hit 40 for me, that was hard. That was a hard birthday for me because and it wasn't necessarily because I feel like I look like I'm aging, and I haven't gotten to that point where I'm overly concerned with my physical aging, but just where I'm supposed to be in my life. And saying, okay, now I'm in my 40s, and I really had set, and the crazy thing about it is, to the outside world, people really see me. Like, I have people tell me, like, you know, my sister, for example, she'll say to me, you know, I look at you and you're just doing so much. You're doing all these great things. And I just feel like, you know, wow, you're just doing it. But I look at my sister and she's got a family. She has 4, you know, beautiful children. And for me, it's like, but while you're looking at me and what I'm doing, I'm looking at you and saying, wow, she has a family and she has beautiful children. And so sometimes even what we're seeing with one another, but again, let me circle back so I don't ramble, but the whole aging thing for me is like, you know, I have spent a lot of time grinding and hustling for things I don't want. And now that I'm more clear that I want them, it's that fear. Am I too old now? Can I start a new career? Can I do something different? And how much time do I have to do that? And what do I really want? And just feeling like, overwhelmed by that and thinking that I'm chasing the clock now. And it's all in my head, right? You know, freaking Colonel Sanders started at 60 years old. I could start frying some chicken, but I'm just saying, like, it's in my head. It's real. You know what I mean? And so it's a huge insecurity, especially as a woman. And it's like, you know, when you're an aging woman, I hear guys all the time now, some of my colleagues and stuff, they'll talk about women, young women, and the aging woman. And I'm like, hello, excuse me, you're talking about a woman my age. Oh, you're different. No. It's like, I could look like Jennifer Lopez at 50 something years old. And all the men, some of the men, not all men, but some of the men will be like, yeah, but she's still in her 50s. She's fine as hell. What are you talking about? So there's always that insecurity too that, you know, like, am I going to be young enough for my man? Is he going to love me as I age? Am I going to be beautiful? This stuff is real. Are you laughing?
Because for some reason, I'm like a young man magnet right now. Like, I'm like, oh my God.
You are.
You need your mom.
It's your
Like,
vibe.
girl.
I'll be a saber tooth. No.
But does that ever make you feel insecure?
I mean, I feel like, you know, I'd be like, I see why. No. No, but for real, like, I'll be like, oh my God, my hairline is all white now. And I'm like, I start noticing lines in my face. Like, I'm noticing the aging now. Like, I never noticed it before. And that's bothering me. But I'm like, what do you do?
I see
You
it and
know?
I'm like, I'm going to fix it.
I know.
That's what I tell myself.
Yeah.
It's good. If it bothers me, I'll do. But but I love myself through that.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
same thing with food. If it makes me feel good, I enjoy it. I don't like to not feel good.
Yeah.
So that's where my mindset comes in. If it doesn't make me feel good, I'm not going to do it. I don't care what I'm out, who I'm with. If it's just, I love myself enough to know that about me. And that's what we all get to know ourselves throughout life. And maybe that's your stage now. Not maybe, that is your stage now. That's where you're at. And you're where you're at. And I'm where I'm at. And we're loving ourselves exactly where we're at while coming together to share where we've been and where we want to go. Nobody has it together.
No.
Nobody. And knowing that, I believe that helps me. I can look at everybody's got shit that stinks. There's nobody that doesn't. It's a fact, excuse my language. But if we live our life admiring things that are great, but also realizing that it's all figure outable. Like, we can always reach, if we want it bad enough, and get it. But there's that course of action, right? There's that self-talk. There's that instructions that we seek to find that we have to create sometimes and write it.
So let me ask you then, as we conclude, because that's a great segue into the conclusion. What would you say to people out there who, again, we all have insecurities, but there are people who are genuinely really struggling in their insecurities. Like, it's got them stuck. What would you say to someone who's really struggling to overcome their insecurities? What would you say?
That they're enough, that they're to just love themselves and, you know, get clear, write it down. If you don't have a support system, find a church, find girlfriends, find, you know, something, because that's the other thing. We isolate ourselves when we're confused often. That's human nature, right? We need a process or whatever. But if you find a community and get involved with something, even just push yourself to do something you've never done, you'll start to figure out who you are, right? It's those things that we don't do that hold us back. The things we do are familiar. They're not going to change us. So whatever that may be, I challenge myself by taking new classes, whether it's physical or a class to learn. That I know every time I make a decision to do that, I'm better in some capacity, whether it's not for a piece of paper, but it's because I'm doing something different in order to help me grow and see things, shake myself in another way.
Carmen?
I would say ask yourself why. Start there. Like, why does this make me feel insecure? Who may be involved with making me feel insecure? What is it that I'm insecure about? Just I'm big on self-help, self-love. Like, I feel like I'm the type of person, if I go to a therapist, I'm going to start giving the therapist therapy.
Advice, I know.
Yes, because I'm kind of controlling that way. But I feel like I'm really good with talking myself through things and trying to discover things about myself, and a good support system, good friends that you trust that are for you, because not everybody's for you. And just start with yourself.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me I'm trying to think, like, what could I really say for people to overcome their
You
insecurities?
said something earlier that hit me because I have a hard time being vulnerable. I'm learning. This is like new for me the last few years. I think that there's freedom in that, but it's also in picking or choosing the right. I mean, not everybody deserves all
Your
of that.
vulnerability.
No.
Yeah.
And I think that's where some insecurities may show up, is giving that vulnerability away to the wrong hands. And now you're, you don't want it, but that's just trial and error. You have to let yourself grow through the pain sometimes. And pain then doesn't become pain. It changes to something else once we realize
I
that.
just say, as I'm listening, it's your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's your life.
Mm-hmm.
Be in charge of it. Take charge. And I think it's not easy, but it's okay that it's not easy. But it's just saying, first of all, this is what I have that I'm struggling with, and kind of what you said, Carmen, and I need to tap into why and embrace what comes up from that. And as it comes up, and let it come out
and feel it,
and get through it, and then say, what's the first thing I can do now? Because the only way you can get to something is one step at a time. And I think whether it's you're struggling with your self-image and it's through weight loss, well, find out what emotionally is going on, or if it's a medical thing, whatever. Just take the steps. And it's not easy, and that's okay. Do you know what I mean? I have to remind myself, and I have to face it. I just have to. Even right now, doing the podcast show is a perfect example of me really putting myself out there and saying, oh, nobody's watching. Oh, they didn't like it. Oh, I don't have any subscribers. What am I doing this for? I feel like an idiot, this and that. And just saying, Lorraine, but do it anyway. Don't fight your feelings, but do it anyway.
Imperfect action.
Yeah. So anyway, ladies, thank you very much for this show. And
good.
Thank you all for watching another episode of the Mindsetters. Again, please comment, like us, subscribe. We want to hear from you. Thanks for listening. Bye.